time now to move on to our next topic. And, we've certainly seen our share of natural disaster reminders about the importance of emergency preparedness recently. And today we want to focus on an ever-present danger kind of wherever you are at. And that is, of course, fire, and how to make your farm fire smart. Now, if you want inspiration to take such action, there's no better person to provide it than our next speaker. Laura Stewart has worked with Alberta Agriculture, Forestry, and Rural Economic Development in the Wildlife Management branch for 8 years as a FireSmart specialist. Before joining the Alberta Wildfire team, Laura spent 5 years with a municipal fire department as a community safety education coordinator, where she, coordinated some home fire safety, emergency preparedness, and injury prevention programming and training. And then in 2012, of course, FireSmart planning and education were added to her portfolio, and she led the municipal FireSmart program. So currently, she is chairing the provincial cross-discipline FireSmart committee and is working every day to empower Albertans to live resiliently with wildfire. So welcome, Laura. We're glad that you could spend time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. And I was letting everybody know this morning, I took a little tumble. I was up cleaning the top of my hood vent on my stove over the weekend, and my knee landed on some parchment paper and I slipped, and my husband said to me, I said, I don't think it's going to look like anything tomorrow. And he said, oh, it's going to look like something tomorrow. I hit it pretty hard, but so I apologize for having a little bit of a black eye today. I did my best to try to cover it up, but I appreciate everyone being here. So I'm just going to share my screen. Perfect. Can everybody see my screen okay? Perfect. So as thank you, Diane. Diane mentioned, I'm Laura Stewart. I have a reputation a little bit on the street as the crazy FireSmart lady, and I'm okay with it. I am crazy about FireSmart, and because I believe in the program, and I know that if we work together, we can really make a difference to reduce wildfire risk. I'm going to talk a little bit today about FireSmart Alberta and an introduction to reducing wildfire risks in our province. So for our agenda, wildfire, it creates an incredible challenge, a devastating challenge sometimes, but it also creates an opportunity. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And then I want to talk a little bit about wildfire in Canada and Alberta. And I have some interesting research papers to share with you and what the trend is looking like given our current trajectory with climate change. And we know, and it's been long expressed, that FireSmart in Alberta, we need agricultural resources. A large portion of our province, and one of the key economic drivers in the province of Alberta, is agriculture. And it's currently a gap. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why that gap exists and what we're going to do about it to overcome it. And then really want to, at the end of it, what we're wanting to do, and what I'm here today to ask and see if there's opportunity to start work on producing poultry producer specific FireSmart resources that meet your needs. And then I'll go through a little summary. So the challenge. Wildfire events, as I said, wildfire events are on the rise. Wildfire seasons are starting earlier, lasting longer, and those one-off crazy events that used to be the water cooler discussions for years are now happening every year. We're seeing those catastrophic wildfire events, extreme fire behavior every year. And there's a bunch of reasons we're starting to see that, and there's a lot we can do to start to tackle that. Wildfire risks, what makes FireSmart and wildfire management so complex is that the risks are unique for every single community. And further to that, the risks for each home and property are also unique. So taking a standardized approach becomes a little bit on the complex side, but FireSmart Alberta, we're here to help with that. And our priority is to reduce the complexity and increase the application. And we know that reducing risk is complex, and in general, Albertans are largely unaware of the risks and responsibilities and what the opportunities are to reduce risks. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the programs that we have in place currently, and what we're hoping to do is see an alignment with the agricultural industry so that we can start conducting home assessments, have our neighborhood recognition program up and running in all of our agricultural communities across the province of Alberta. There's an opportunity, and we need to make FireSmart simple. I remember back to my municipal fire days, and I'm a teacher. That my education is in education, and I've been an educator for my entire life. But I'm a little crazy, so when I was in a classroom, I would talk too fast, and it was very. So I knew that, and so I focused on education program management and development, and really, I've learned over the years that we have 97% of our fire departments in the province of Alberta are volunteer paid on call departments, and they're stretched to the limit. And it's typically these fire departments that are leading the local FireSmart program. And that's something we need to change. We need everybody to come together and have all hands on deck to reduce the risk and be prepared. We need to provide residents with additional information sources that will help them identify their risks and also start to apply them, and additional opportunities to reduce risk. So the need for reducing wildfire risk in Canada, the last decade has been the warmest on record in North America, and it's only expected to increase. There's three key drivers that have been driving at a national scale the need for increasing wildfire preparedness and risk reduction. Climate change is the big one, and we're going to talk a lot about that today, but we're seeing trends where catastrophic wildfire events and extreme wildfire events are happening more often. Overall forest health, and I know that to the agricultural industry, this doesn't align, but however, it does align when we start to look at climate change and some of the impacts that it's having on crops for producers across the province. So when I talk about forest health, I should replace that with crop health as well, because we know that the changing climate is starting to have an impact. We're seeing things within the forested environment, such as spruce budworm, which was a large contributor in Fort McMurray. And then we also have the mountain pine beetle, which has been ravaging Western Alberta and is starting to make its way slowly across the province. So with that, the fuels become more volatile and burn with more intensity, and makes it more difficult for firefighters to manage. So currently we know that there are an estimated 11 million Canadians currently living in areas of significant wildfire hazard. If we look at this map, we can see all of the areas across Canada that have been classified as the wildland-urban interface. And you'll see for the province of Alberta, a large portion of that is within our agricultural piece of the province. So this is something that really spoke to me, and coming from a non-forest protection area fire department dealing with grass fires on an everyday basis during the spring and summer, I know that we have to start to take action and simplify it for all of Alberta. So Canada's changing climate, and I know that I've mentioned this already, but Canada's climate has warmed and will warm for. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. Canada's climate has warmed and will warm further in the future, and this is largely driven by human influence. Both past and future warming in Canada is on average about double the magnitude of global warming. Warming is effectively irreversible. So we're starting to see more extreme heat, less extreme cold, shorter seasonal coverage of snow and ice, which is a huge issue, of course, in a place like Southern Alberta, where we also experience Chinooks. So the melting of glaciers and permafrost, rise in sea level. We're also seeing an intensification of certain extremes. So intense rainfall and urban flooding, if we think about our neighbors to the west in British Columbia, dealing with an incredible, the worst wildfire season on record, followed by the worst flood event incident on record. So we're seeing these events more often, and unfortunately, they're increasing in frequency. I already mentioned that wildfire seasons are starting earlier and lasting longer. The severity of heat waves is starting to increase, and we're facing the risk of drought and wildfire on an annual basis. Climate change and land use change are projected to make wildfires more frequent and intense, with a global increase of extreme fires. So recently, the UN completed a report, the United Nations completed a report looking at called Spreading Like Wildfire, the Rising Threat of Extraordinary Landscape Fires. In this report, they have suggested that wildfires will increase. Catastrophic wildfires will increase by up to 14% by 2030, 30% by the end of 2050, and 50% by the end of the century. That's a huge increase given what we're already facing. And a lot of scientists have said, Canadian researchers have said that they feel that these numbers may be low. We're going to see larger increases in wildfire events in Canada. And so historically, FireSmart in Alberta has been managed by Alberta Agriculture, Forestry, and Rural Economic Development. And due to the fact that they manage the wildfire management branch and are responsible for the forest industry in Alberta. But the one issue we have with that, of course, is that we don't tackle the non-forest protection area of our province with our messaging and programming. So we took a look, and if we looked back over the past 10 years of catastrophic wildfire events, and we jump to 2011, which was the most notable wildfire event that really kind of caught everyone's attention because we lost such a huge portion of the community. Recommendation 4 in the Flat Top Complex review was wildfire mitigation and preparedness should be a shared responsibility. An external process involving other partners such as the what used to be the AUMA, the RMA, Indigenous Services Canada, Municipal Affairs, etc., should be established to identify and administer funding and include establishing priorities. Then we jump ahead to 2016 and the Horse River wildfire. And recommendation number 8 was emphasize a long-term vision for FireSmart within the province that includes community responsibility, multi-agency collaboration, and an outcome-based approach to implementing FireSmart projects, ensuring that all 7 FireSmart disciplines are addressed. And that's a big one that I'm going to talk a little bit more about momentarily. And the one that kind of was able to take us over the line and across the line to establish FireSmart Alberta was recommendation number 1 from the 2019 wildfire review. And this wildfire season was intense in 2019, threatened multiple communities across multiple areas of the province, including extreme grass fire events in southern Alberta. So a common theme to all of those reviews is no one agency, person, project, or action can reduce wildfire risk completely. That's a fact. It's critical that we take an all-of-society approach to tackle this rising problem. So Alberta Wildfire provides leadership in the FireSmart arena, but does not have the delegated authority in all of the disciplines. So if we look at emergency planning and vegetation management specific to forested fuels, we're the experts and the go-to in the province of Alberta. But when we start to talk about cross-training, legislation, education, development, and interagency cooperation, we're not the delegated authority in those municipalities. So what we've done is form an all of Alberta approach to wildfire resilience. If this is the common famous FireSmart, the wildfire forest protection area within Alberta. The Alberta Wildfire is responsible for managing wildfire within the forest protection area of Alberta. But what we run into, of course, is the areas that are in white, that are continuing to be threatened with wildfire and facing wildfire. And it was critically important to our board of directors as we started to come together to build a plan for how we were going to launch FireSmart Alberta, that we take an all of Alberta approach. So we are here for every community and every person and every resident in the province of Alberta to support them to live resiliently with our wildfire reality. So FireSmart Alberta, we are a registered not-for-profit that's governed by a 12-person board of directors. We have 2 representatives for each of the 7 FireSmart disciplines, one from inside the provincial government and one from outside the provincial government. And that was really critical as we established this working group, or this committee, I should say. We want the right people at the table, not only the policy level, but we always also need people that are boots to the ground, having successful programs, and we need to get their input and build the best plan. So when I talked earlier about the 7 disciplines of FireSmart briefly, it's important to think of FireSmart as a system. Each of the 7 FireSmart disciplines play a critical role in increasing community wildfire resilience. Vegetation management in Alberta is the dominant discipline. 90% of FireSmart projects that are executed in the province of Alberta are under the vegetation management discipline, and that really has to change. We need to balance it out because we know that it will make it easier for communities to take a balanced approach, and including each of these parts of the system, make it a system. And that's the system that you can use to protect your home and community from wildfire. So as a board of directors, we wanted to put it all down on paper within a strategic plan. So our board of directors worked virtually through COVID and built a 3-year strategic plan. We've broken it down by goals and then objectives, which are really the areas where we're accountable for growth. And the key initiatives are going to be the building blocks we use to accomplish deliverables. Within our strategic plan, agriculture is front and center, and producing materials and working collaboratively with our agricultural partners across the province and producers is critically important. And that's how we're going to make this program an all of Alberta approach and successful. So again, I'll probably say this a million times today, and I apologize for that, but it's really important that we take an all of Alberta approach, and we need to understand where we're at and understand where the gaps exist. And I say this specifically to partners here today from the agricultural industry and from the poultry industry. We want to know what's missing. So I'll talk a little bit about how to stay involved and provide your input and have a voice as we work to develop this program. When we get to I had a few more slides. So we want to define the current process, simplify the FireSmart process. I mentioned that 97% of fire departments in Alberta are volunteer paid on call, and capacity and they're juggling a million things. We need to make it simple, easy, and achievable. We want to get everybody involved, measure, and keep the conversation going. So our vision that we landed on is that Alberta communities are empowered with the knowledge and tools they need to live resiliently with wildfire. Dear. Wildfire is not going anywhere, and we know that. It's going to continue to happen, and it's going to continue to occur in the province of Alberta, and we need to provide the tools and knowledge to everyone in the province so that they can be supported to live resiliently with wildfire. We know that taking a balanced approach to FireSmart and wildfire preparedness is critical in the province of Alberta and all across Canada. So we drive the balanced application of all 7 FireSmart disciplines in the province of Alberta. And I do not have permission from Staples to do this, but ultimately, we really want to have a one-stop FireSmart stop for communities in Alberta with resources that are built based on their feedback and can be adapted for their local use. We've established 7 FireSmart working groups for the province. We also want to talk to the poultry producers as well as other agricultural producers in the province, because we'd also would like to establish an agricultural working group, a FireSmart Alberta Agricultural Working Group, so that we can start to implement some of the initiatives that we've identified in our 3 5-year strategic plan. Within the strategic plan, FireSmart is complex. There's a lack of capacity and budget. There's a huge lack of grassland resources, and all 7 disciplines are not equally being applied in the province of Alberta. Our actions, we're going to develop FireSmart agriculture resources in collaboration with producers. We're going to develop turnkey solutions and templates that can be easily used and easily adapted for local use. We're going to develop a FireSmart school education program, and we want to include an agricultural component to that school education program. We want to hold an annual FireSmart Alberta conference, and we want to hold them in communities over the next 3 years that are not within the forest protection area. So that's going to be a primary focus for us as well. We're still, of course, the forested area is a huge priority for us, but I want everyone to know that we have identified it as a gap, and we're working diligently to close that gap, and we want to do it together. And we want to make FireSmart easier in Alberta and easier to succeed and be successful. The expected outcomes are pretty simple. Albertans understand the importance of FireSmart and their responsibility in the game, and a consistent approach is used across all of Alberta. Grass fires in Alberta. Grass is a flashy fuel that burns very quickly. So cured grass, high temps, and high winds make for a very difficult situation in our province, particularly in southern Alberta, where you are dealing with Chinooks and can also, in some areas of southern Alberta, experience extremely high wind events. So Chinooks in the winter can expose fully cured grassland and agricultural cropland fuels. Wildfire environment fuel is cured when we look at grass. That's the problem. It's not as much of an issue when the fuel isn't cured, but when the fuel is cured in the spring and the fall, when it's nice and crispy and the temperatures start to increase, and temperatures, wind, and relative humidity start to increase, we know that that's conditions that will allow for a fast-moving wildfire that will most likely be quite difficult to control. We see a huge risk in Alberta in the spring and fall, of course, mentioning again the cured fuels. And the one thing with grass that is, I've been telling all of my colleagues within the wildfire management branch for this year, for years, I should say, when we deal with a wildfire in a forested stand, the fuel is gone and the risk reduces and the threat and the exposure reduces for a significant number of years as the forest rejuvenates. However, with grass, you have a good grass fire, and that is only going to really encourage the growth and the regrowth of more grass. And grass grows no matter what, and it grows relatively quickly. So we know that grass fires occurred in Alberta in every single month of the 2021 calendar year. So that's January to December. There was a grass fire reported in the province of Alberta in every single month. So again, that loops back up to the discussion we initially started with around climate change. So there are some simple actions that you can start today. Oops, and my animations are mixed up, so I apologize for that. So first thing, and we talked about it, emergency preparedness. And the Alberta Agriculture, Brad Andres, he is the director of emergency preparedness and emergency management, sorry. He is a wealth of knowledge and incredible resource. And he's someone that we're going to be working with as we, and have at the table when we start to develop these new FireSmart grassland resources. So I always encourage everyone, come up with a plan, understand your risks, come up with a plan, and start to implement solutions. The big tip, of course, for anything, and of course, I'm providing a picture today from an area that has a beautiful deciduous tree behind the shed, but we know that we can see trees landscaped on properties in a grassland area. So I felt that it was the safest photo to put, and I apologize for not having a large accumulation of grassland photos, but that we want to change that as we work together. Maintain grass to 10 centimeters or less within 30 meters of home and structures. And I skipped number 2. we want to harden the home. You want to harden the home and the surface that surrounds your home. We've learned a lot due to the increasing number of wildfire events that have taken place over the last several years, particularly in California. And we've learned that the home itself and everything that surrounds it out to 100 meters from the foundation has an impact on how fire is going to behave, as well as potentially impact the home and property. Fire needs fuel. By taking the fuel out of the equation, you can sort of put fire to bed and increase the resiliency and survivability of your home and structure. And a simple thing to do in a grassland environment, and something we always encourage folks to do, is maintain grass to 10 centimeters or less within 30 meters of homes or structures. So items at locations such as barns. And if possible, rotate grazing in high wildfire danger periods. And that, in a grassland environment, that can be when you can see on the forecast that there is an increased weather pattern that's going to have high temperatures, strong winds, and you know that the grass is cured. It potentially rotating the grazing and bringing it closer to structures on the farm could be used to help reduce the risk. So when we talk about fire, and I talked about the home ignition zone, and this is something just right out of the gate that I want to change right now. We need to have a home ignition zone picture for a farm environment and for a farm and ranch environment and an agricultural environment. So please know we're committed to doing that. But you can see here that in this forested picture, which it has been used for many years, that it starts with the home. Post-fire studies, experiments, and models have shown that homes ignite due to the condition of the home and everything that surrounds it, as I mentioned, to 100 meters from the foundations. And FireSmart principles are designed to mitigate a home's vulnerability to wildfire. If we think about the trifecta that fire needs to ignite and sustain, it's heat, fuel, and oxygen. The one thing in that equation that we as homeowners and property owners and farm and ranch owners have is to control the fuel. So we can make choices with our home, and we have a series of resources that around home development and home design standards that are not specific to the fuels that surround you. They're specific to reducing the risk of wildfire impacting your home and property. So the big one is the non-combustible zone. We learned this in Fort McMurray. We all witnessed it in Fort McMurray. Also, the fires in southern Alberta during the Keno fire that impacted Cardston County, as well as the MD of Pincher Creek, the non-combustible. Oh dear, I don't know how to turn that off. I feel so terrible for it. So we know that the materials on the home and everything that surrounds it in this 0 to 10 meter space is critically important. Taking steps to reduce and remove combustible fuels is a big step in protecting your home and property. So some wildfire damage fast facts. 90% of homes with non-combustible roofs and 10 meters of clearance, non-combustible clearance, will survive a major wildfire. This research was conducted in the late 90s by a gentleman by the name of Jack Cohen. He's kind of the FireSmart granddaddy in North America, I should say. And he completed a research paper following several wildland-urban interface fire events in the United States, and also did some work up in Fort Providence in the Northwest Territories as well. Following that research, it was determined that 90% of homes with non-combustible roofs, so a Class A ignition-resistant asphalt roof and 10 meters of clearance, will survive a major wildfire. That's a huge first step. Metal roofing is 95% less likely to catch fire in the event of a wildfire. We know that metal roofing is a great option, and the roof is the most vulnerable component of a home, and embers can fly and travel great distances in front of the head of the fire, up to 2 kilometers. And metal roofing is a great deterrent for fire. However, I know that the insurance industry is not the biggest fan of it due to hail. So a Class A asphalt ignition resistant roof is standardized protection for the home. This next stat is when I talk about embers, more than 50% of homes, and this number is likely far, far higher, more than 50% of homes destroyed by wildfires are ignited by embers. There was a research study that was completed by the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety in the US that states that, and this was looking at US fuels, of course, but it was more than 90% of homes destroyed by wildfires were ignited by embers. So it's the little things. It's not the big wall of flames traveling towards the house. It's the little things that are landing down on combustible fuels and materials and hot spots on a house, or areas where embers can collect easily on a combustible home or material adjacent to a home. And that's what's causing the issues. So if we can take action to reduce those fuels, we can dramatically increase the survivability of our home. Structural modifications can reduce wildfire risk by up to 40%, and structural and vegetation modifications combined can reduce wildfire risk to 75%. When simply moving to a well-built, wildfire-resistant structure from a neutral property setting. Moreover, research has determined that the losses avoided can be even more significant when compared to a highly flammable structure. So that's something that I get a lot of questions on, and it is, we realize that we need to shift gears, and it's another priority for FireSmart Alberta, developing resources for our agricultural community, as well as starting to focus on the built environment and making some legislative and policy changes at a provincial scale that influence development. So there's been a lot of work taking place, and we're just getting, pardon the pun, but we're just getting fired up, and we'll be continuing to work on seeing if we can make some policy changes in the province that support FireSmart development. So now we've learned that we've kind of gone through in a very brief time wildfire in Alberta, some of the gaps, who we are, FireSmart Alberta, why we were established, and what we're focused on doing. But a big reason that I'm here today is to talk about the resources. So any of the guidelines that are provided in any of the resources that are currently available for FireSmart in the province of Alberta, as well as nationally, all of the principles still apply. However, they're written in a way that it's written and tailored for the forested environment, and we need to change that. And obviously, there's going to need to be a lot of work with graphics and methods and tactics and tools when it comes to working and mitigating within an agricultural environment. We do in the province of Alberta have the Farm and Acreage magazine. It's available. I have multiple printed copies. If you would like a copy of it, please just send me a quick email, and I will send a box to you, or send a couple copies to you. But there's some really great tips for farm and acreage owners. The one issue we have, though, is that it's very focused on the forest protection area in the province. So we have permission from Alberta Wildfire to work in collaboration with them to redevelop, and we also have the budget to redevelop this guidebook or this magazine for all of Alberta, and with a focus on not just the forest protection area, but the entire province. So that's work that's coming up and underway, and we're excited for your input and suggestions as we work towards doing that. There are a few other programs that we have in Alberta that you'll see, of course, that all of these photos for the next few slides will be in forested areas, but it's something that as an association, we've prioritized engaging with our agricultural partners across the province. So we, in Alberta, we know that we've learned, and I've shared some research already, that the built environment is where we can really make a measurable difference. So we do offer FireSmart home assessments in the province of Alberta. We have over 100 certified through FireSmart Canada, FireSmart home assessors in the province of Alberta. They're all firefighters with municipal and Indigenous community fire departments across the province, and they're qualified to conduct home assessments on behalf of FireSmart Canada and FireSmart Alberta. So if that's ever of interest, this is something that we have received interest from a variety of municipalities outside the forest protection area in the province, and it's something that would like to build on. what is conducted, they do a comprehensive review of your home and the home ignition zone and provide concrete recommendations to you on the specific actions you can take to reduce the risk of wildfire impacting your home and property. We are working as an association to also establish we set a goal by 2024. We're going to be launching a FireSmart home improvement rebate program in the province of Alberta. It will apply to both non-forest protection area and forest protection areas, where you could take that rebate and apply it towards upgrading your roof, changing your decking, removing some landscaping that's combustible and or coniferous in close crop proximity to the house. So I will definitely, now that we've got the great connection through the Alberta poultry producers, we will definitely be keeping you informed as to when that launches. We've also got the FireSmart Canada Neighborhood Recognition and Program. And the reason I wanted to bring this up, we are hosting a workshop on April 7th and 8th. It's free, it's 2 half days, it's delivered virtually, and it's a great way to get people involved. In Alberta, we currently have 12 communities. They're all within the forest protection area of Alberta, aside from my old municipality that I worked for, Strathcona County. And they are, so we do have a recognized neighborhood in Strathcona County, but the remainder are within the forest protection area. We want to change that. Let's get down and start to talk with our neighbors, talk with other producers, come up with a plan and start to implement solutions. And then FireSmart Canada will provide the neighborhood or area with recognition. The Cooperators Insurance has just announced that effective May 7th, they will be offering a 10% discount to policyholders who reside within a recognized FireSmart Canada neighborhood. And we've set a goal in the province of Alberta to increase the number of recognized FireSmart neighborhoods by 50% over the next 2 years. So if you want to learn more, and we're sort of brainstorming and coming up with ideas, and that's where I definitely need your help on ways that we can adapt this program and utilize it within the agricultural community in Alberta and start to see some of the rewards associated with taking FireSmart action and reducing your risk. So that's really what I'm here for. I want to team up to develop FireSmart resources for poultry producers in the province of Alberta. I want to understand what's missing, what's needed. What would the resources look like? Are we talking a comprehensive 30-page binder manual, or do you want quick and easy toolkits and resource sheets, or are both needed? We want to determine that and work with you to develop them. Are you interested in participating? I hope you say yes. So please, we will be following a process where FireSmart Alberta has recently completed our 3-year strategic plan. And the reason for that, we wanted to be eligible to apply for grant funding through a variety of organizations. So this last year, we've been busy writing grant applications, and we've been successful. So we do have the budget to do this, and we're looking for partners to help us make it a reality.
Well, thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you. I went over time.
Summary there. Okay, yeah, go for it.
So no. I took my screen off. That's okay. I was going to give my. I'm so sorry for talking too much. Yes,
no, that's fine. No one more passionate about FireSmart. Do you have some contact information you wanted to pass along?
Yes, I can put that in the chat box if you'd like.
Perfect. Yes, because if producers are interested in getting more information or getting involved, you're kind of looking for some poultry industry delegates to sort of provide that input then.
That's correct. Yes, please.
Maybe someone who's even had a fire experience. That's it's always more top of mind on that as well.
Of course. And this last wildfire season and early winter has been a challenge already.
For sure. Well, Laura, thank you so much for sharing your passion, your vision, the great work that FireSmart Alberta is doing. And we hope that we can keep in contact with you and hear more about progress as you apply it to agricultural areas. So thank you so much for speaking with us today. That's Laura Stewart.